Today we're going to learn how to install a downspout drain. So in the morning you're typically going to be given a work order, and in the work order you're going to get something that reads like this. Bury a downspout at the northeast corner of the house to the north approximately 20 feet using solid 4-inch PVC drain pipe finished with a small gravel dry well and a spring-loaded pop-up emitter. Sometimes we get a drawing like this too, and in the drawing you're going to see these little X's with the green arrows and the circled spots. The X's are where the downspouts are, and the circles are where the drains are supposed to end. It's just a little visual to help you guys kind of get your bearings about what you're actually doing out there so nobody has to come babysit you. Before you leave the shop, make sure you have your PVC pipe, your saw, your level, and your shovels and pickaxes. And don't forget your fittings. And then the first step after that is really to make sure you have some ground protection down, because you don't want to just destroy the grass. So you're not going to take all that dirt and just dump it on the nice yard. Instead, you're going to lay out some boards or some tarps. Boards are a little nicer. And you're going to put all the dirt on that. Now, the first thing he's doing after that is he's stripping this sod. So you notice he went down and he cut into the sod about 3 to 4 inches deep all the way around it. The goal here is to preserve the roots of that sod. That way, when we reinstall the sod, it will live. And now he's cutting them into little small, like 1 foot by 1 foot chunks so that he can easily pull those pieces of sod. And then since there's still some leaves on the ground, he went ahead and just blew the leaves off. That way the sod's clean and it's easier to lift up because it's hard to grab the sod when there's a bunch of leaves on it. And we don't want a bunch of leaves mixed in our dirt when we go to bury this back. A couple of leaves isn't going to kill anybody, but in general, we're not trying to mix leaves with our dirt. So they pulled the sod off, they set it to the side, they went ahead and pulled the sod over to the side. At this point, we can get the trencher or the mini excavator in there and it will not destroy the sod. But this is a smaller drain, so they're just going to dig it by hand and keep the dirt on the boards. Now he's going to take off the elbow on the downspout, and that way when we put our adapter on, we can go straight down into the ground. If the elbow of the downspout is a solid piece, then you'll use an angle grinder to cut it off. And then he's going to go back, dig out, well, first they're raking the gravel back, getting the blocks out of the way from the landscape bed, and at the same time, they're digging out the trench. They're trying to dig that trench out. 10 inches deep is the magic number that we're looking for. The minimum is 8 inches, but, you know, I would say be an overachiever. Hit 10 inches. If you go 12, nobody's going to yell at you. But we want those pipes to be buried at least 4 inches deep, so when an aerator runs over it, it's not puncturing it. And that's the biggest thing we're concerned about when it comes to the depth of the pipe. But the little end there, that little ball he's digging out, that is your dry well hole. And essentially the dry well hole has got to be a little bit deeper than the trench, so you're maybe going to go 14 or 16 inches on that. And right now, this is him checking how deep he is. And so he's showing us that he's almost 5 inches. The camera angle is a little weird, but he's about 5 inches there. So if you take into consideration the 4 inches of pipe, he's got a 9-inch trench. A little shallower than I'd prefer, but it's deep enough to dodge any aerators and to allow the grass roots to grow back. He's also checking the slope of the pipe. You got to make sure that any pipes you bury drain away from the house. So if the bubble isn't on the house side on the level, then that means that it's going the wrong way or it's not draining at all. He's going to come over here now and he's going to cut for his upspout. And in order to cut for his upspout, he's going to have to get a measurement. And the measurement is not from the end of the pipe to the end of the pipe, but it's from the inside where the flare is to the inside of the flare. So you can see that little diagram showed you guys, but then he just assembles it, puts it together. We don't glue these pipes because they're drain pipes and they're not under pressure. This also allows us to easily manipulate them in the future if they need repaired. I don't mind if a little bit of water drips out. A little bit of water isn't going to cause any problems. I'm trying to control the bulk of the water, and that's going to do that for us. That's the pop-up emitter that we're going to use. Usually they're white. For whatever reason, this happens to be a black one. So with these pop-up emitters, the little slots that come with them and that allow the water to drain out the bottom are kind of small. So what he's doing here is cutting it bigger. Now he's not cutting it too big, because if you make it too big, then the gravel and dirt will wash up into it. But you got to make it big enough that the water can actually drain out. And that little bitty slot that comes with it, that thing will get clogged pretty quickly. Then he goes to his dry well and he measures how deep his pipe is. And the first thing he's going to do is put what's called a riser on there. But in order for the riser to work, he's got to cut some of the flared end off because it's not a tall enough riser. If the riser was tall enough, he doesn't have to cut off the flared end. But because it's such a short riser, he's cutting off some of the flared ends so that he can have some small end, because you got to have the small end to be able to fit into the elbow. Once he finishes all that, they're going to bring a wheelbarrow of gravel, maybe 2. That's 3/4 inch clean gravel. And that's going to be what keeps that outlet clean. That gravel will lock into each other. Of course, then he just backfills it with dirt. You know, they put all it back. You're going to want to set it a little bit high and then tamp it all down. When you're done, you really shouldn't see, it shouldn't look like you did anything to the yard. It should just be like it was when you showed up. And of course, you got to clean up at the end. Always clean up after yourself, and make sure you bring the customer out to do a walkthrough at the end so everybody's happy. And that's how we install a downspout drain at Gabrus Landscaping.